great to be here. Is everybody having fun? I hope so. Well, that's what we like to see. Is that a little better? Can everybody hear me from here? Okay. I want to thank the fathers here for allowing me to come to speak about amazing stories of conversions, the mercy of God, people coming back to Jesus Christ and His bride, the church. And as Brother said, I'm about to share with you what I have been having the blessing to do for the last 33 years, help people fall in love with God. Because St. Augustine said this 1,700 years ago. He said, to fall in love with God is the greatest of romances. To seek Him, the greatest adventure. To find Him, the greatest human achievement. And I think all of us here today would agree that what we are is God's gift to us, is God giving us His gift. What we become is our gift back to God. So what we do in our life, we want to share it. Because that love in your heart wasn't put there to stay. Love isn't love until you give it away. And I would think you would agree at this Mercy of God conference that we have the solution for the meaning and purpose of life. It's to fall in love with God. But like Christ on the cross, our country is bleeding from her wounds. And this conference is an answer to the secular humanism, the answer to the pro-abortion mentality, and to bring out of this culture of death to a culture of life. And we're going to do it one family at a time. That's what this conference is about. And I'd like to share with you a story by the great servant of God, Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen, a story that I think applies to us here at this conference. It's a story that took place at another shrine, Our Lady of Lourdes in France. There were two girls from England that were visiting, and they didn't know each other, and they hadn't even seen each other until they laid side by side on a stretcher before the shrine of Our Lady. As the procession of the Blessed Sacrament came near, one girl prayed, "Oh Lord, this poor girl is suffering. Heal her and let me bear my pain." Interesting to note, the other girl made exactly the same prayer. And both were cured. God cured them both. We too, perhaps, would more quickly be cured of our anxieties, our fears, our problems, if we prayed for others more than ourselves. Many sufferings have been healed by their disabilities when they forgot themselves and helped someone else. We read in the Bible, the book of Job, that the Lord turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends. And how many of the parables in the New Testament follow this theme? So we do unto others as you have them do unto you. And I noticed at this conference there's a lot of elderly people in wheelchairs that are suffering greatly. And I know you know what redemptive suffering is. But what I'm going to tell you, I think, can change the world. There is so much suffering in the world which can be transformed into streams of grace if they were accepted and offered in union with the sufferings of our blessed Lord. Listen to this. Hospitals could become spiritual atomic power plants in drawing divine graces into the world. If all Catholics worked with this great talent properly, the evil one would soon be defeated and the world would be converted. And I might add, countless poor souls would be released from purgatory. So everybody's involved in evangelization. Just because I get to walk and run around the country and be on the radio, no, it's everybody. Grandma, Grandpa, the little kids, we can offer up everything to Jesus. And now I'm going to share with you, over the 33 years that I've had the pleasure of sharing the faith, some of the secrets I call the 7 secrets of sharing your faith with anyone. And the bookstore after this conference will have a CD set of ours in the bookstore. So after the conference next week, we'll have those there. But I'm going to give you some stories that I think you can apply to your own life. Has anybody been to the Grand Canyon? Raise your hand. I'm from LA. Okay, everybody would agree the Grand Canyon is beautiful, right? Got these big, beautiful canyons. Well, I went to Havasaw Falls with a retreat with some priests and brothers and my sons. And when we went on this retreat, we climbed into the canyon and we saw waterfalls that were 400 feet tall. Beautiful, right? But while we're looking at these beautiful waterfalls with the good priests and brothers, we have a situation come up, which we all have. We live in a secular world. What happens? Some gentlemen riding motorcycles, loud motorcycles, Harleys, and they're coming down the cliff like we did, and I hear them talking, but they weren't talking about godly things. They were blaspheming. So what did I do? I asked my guardian angel, and I would ask you to do this when you want to reach out to somebody. Consecrate yourself to your guardian angel. Ask your guardian angel to set the stage to give people the faith. So what did I say to those guys, those gentlemen that were coming down using bad language? I didn't argue with them. I used my first law. Ask questions. I said, gentlemen, can I ask you a question? And they said, yeah, dude. Sounds like Father Calloway, right? Yeah, dude. What do you want? And I said, can you gentlemen tell me what construction company built this Grand Canyon? Was it from Los Angeles or from Phoenix? And they looked at me, and this is exactly what he said. Dude, what are you smoking? Sounds like Father Calloway, I know. I said, I'm not smoking anything. Would you gentlemen agree that God built this Grand Canyon for us? And they said, okay, dude, God built the canyon for us, whatever. And I said, gentlemen, can I ask you one more question? Yeah, what? Do you think we should thank God for this beautiful canyon that we're experiencing with this waterfall? And they said, all right, we'll thank God. And so as they came down, I shook their hand, I told them my name, I asked their name, I told them what we were doing. We evangelized them. But you see, the difference here is when you share the faith, you need to establish rapport with people. You can't condemn. You've got to be able to give them the good news in a way that is palatable to them. Now I'm going to give you a short story of the mercy of God for a policeman. For those who don't know, we own a Catholic church out in California. It's called the Sacred Heart Chapel. It's a beautiful 100-year-old chapel, and next door to our chapel are condominiums, apartments. And these police cars come, and they have police business to take care of next to the chapel. I pull up, I notice they're looking at our chapel like, wow, that's a nice, beautiful building. So I said, gentlemen, you ask questions, would you like to look inside the church? I found out that when they grew up as kids, they went to that church. But one of them hadn't been to church in 25 years. So I established rapport with him. I said, we've got a mission coming. I told the policeman, why don't you go to confession and get back with Jesus? It's been a long time, you said. He says, well, I don't know about that. I want to, but I'm not sure. So I made the invitation. And then I said, that's all I can do, right? Well, what happened was I called two people that were suffering with cancer. And I said, Mike, Mary, would you do me a favor? Would you offer your suffering for the day for this poor soul who's been away from the church for 25 years? We've encouraged him to come to confession, but he might not show up. So we need your prayers. They said, you got it. Well, that day I went home for lunch, and my boys, we were building a tree house in our house, and a couple of the other kids in the neighborhood were there, and they said, Dad, you're home for lunch. Can we go to Taco Bell for lunch? This is out in California. It's a convenience, short, fast food place. So I went there. Who did I run into? The policeman who was thinking about going to confession. He says, fancy meeting you here. He says, do you have a minute? I said, boys, enjoy the meal. The policeman wants to talk to me. That policeman pulled me over aside with a packed restaurant and said, Terry, can I ask you a question? Yeah. What happens at death? He wanted to know about judgment. He was thinking about going to confession, but he needed a little encouragement. He said to me, Terry, I'm scared to death to go to confession because I'm afraid that priest is going to, kick my you-know-what. That's what he said. I can't repeat what he said. He said it. And so I looked at him, knowing the circumstances, and I went right into his face and I said, you know what? Maybe you need to get your kicked. And he looked at me and he said, you're right, I'll come. Okay, I'll go. So we left, and then he comes back about 5 o'clock, an hour before confession, and says to me, how do I make an examination? You told me an examination of conscience, but you didn't help me. So I helped him out. 3 times he wanted to leave. All the prayer partners that were praying, he finally went. He went to confession, took an hour. I took off to go to a men's conference back east that night. I came back at like 12:30 in the morning. And I wanted to go to a 6:30 first Sunday morning mass to thank Jesus for him going to confession. You know how good our God is? Guess who was sitting in front of me at church? That policeman! That's how God is so good. That man heard me and said, come, let's sit and pray together. We went to Mass together. He told me that when he received Jesus in the Eucharist, he was like flying. But that's how beautiful our faith is when you share it with people. And that policeman is still fervent. I see him in church. This is years ago. Now I want to tell you something simple. I see all the little kids here. We put on family conferences around the country. And a 12-year-old boy who studied Dr. Scott Hahn's material, Bishop Sheen, I mean, he was formed in the faith. And he went to an ecumenical conference of a summer camp with Protestants and Catholics. And here's how it happened. They said, I want to introduce everybody. And he says, I'm Mike Jones from St. Mary's. And they looked and they said, St. Mary's? You must be Catholic. And he said, the Catholics worship Mary, they said to him. And he said, actually, let me explain to everybody what we believe about Mary. Does anybody have a picture of their loved one in their wallet? Do you have that? Well, do you worship that? No, but we don't worship statues either. Let me explain to you. So this young 12-year-old kid was catechizing a group of Protestant Bible teachers, and he could hold his own because he knew his faith. He was formed. And that's what I hope that we can do and continue one family at a time. I have another little story. There's some little kids here that are 5 years of age. I was at a conference and he catechized me. Even 5-year-old kids can do it. I'm at the conference and people are running around and this little kid pulls on my pants leg and says, Mister, can I ask you a question? I look down and I said, yeah, what is it, Junior? You know, he says, do you know who made you? And I looked at him, he says, God made you. And you know what? He made me too. The little 5-year-old told me that. He knew more about the meaning and purpose of life than most people on planet Earth. But with us, with all of us sharing this good news, that's going to change too. And I can share with you, it's simple things of evangelization. Just last Friday, on Good Friday, out in California, we walk up a mountain and we pray the rosary, big cross up at the top of the hill. Our Protestant university does the same thing. They don't pray the rosary, but they have their own retreat up there. So I'm walking up this hike for about an hour and a half up a steep hill, and I see hundreds of people coming down, but these two young ladies, Hispanic ladies, make a comment to me. And I would say, pray before you speak. But the comment was, I grew up in a non-Christian family. I was Catholic. Time out. Obviously, she never got it. Her parents never passed on the faith. So when she said that, I stopped in my tracks. And I said, girls, can I ask you a question? Remember, when you want to evangelize, just ask for, can I ask you a question? They're going to say no. They're going to say, of course, what is it? So I shared with them that you're probably a Catholic that never was catechized. And then I shared with them our family heirloom, the Bible, how it came together, the Eucharist, confession in the Bible. They listened to me for over 10 minutes and they were grateful. Well, that's because God put me in a position to share the good news of the faith. And He puts you in situations, and I would encourage you to use those basic laws. Now I'd like to share with you another story. Are any of you here baseball fans? I'm sure there's some Boston fans here. Well, I'm from Los Angeles, and I was at a baseball stadium, and this is how we can evangelize, even at the park, over at the grocery store, in the library, you name it. I'm at a baseball game with my 4 kids. I went to get my popcorn, my drinks, and I see a fight breaking out in the stands because of a Giant fan and an Anaheim Stadium fan, Angel fan, and I can see it coming on. And I look at him, and the guy looks at me and goes, what are you going to do about it, buddy? Well, if you haven't noticed, I'm not 6'8", 416 pounds. I'm a little guy. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say a prayer that you stop drinking that beer because your wife and children are counting on you to get home safely. I hit him below the belt. He was stunned when I said that. He said, you're right, I shouldn't be doing this. He sat down and we averted a fight. But you see, when you love people, they don't know what to do. The other response was, knock them out. That's not a Christian response. Love people, even when they don't love you back. And then I have a great story. Gosh, as you know, we've produced over 25 million recordings, so there's a lot of people who want to get our business for replication. So a gentleman came to me and asked me, he said, Terry, my son, my wife is Catholic, I'm Jewish, but I would like to talk to you about supplying you for your needs for replication of CDs and DVDs. Well, when he did, I gave him a DVD on the Catholic faith to give to his Catholic son, who was just confirmed, as a way to evangelize his family. Well, 2 weeks later, the Jewish father called me and said, my son came to me and he said he really liked that DVD you gave me. I said, really? He said, yeah, he told me that he now knows what he wants to do with his rest of his life. He wants to be a Catholic priest. So this is why giving Catholic literature is so important, because many times they might not want to hear it from you, but they can hear it from Fulton Sheen or Scott Hahn. So it's very, very important for us to be contagious Catholics, to share the mercy of God. And I might add, this is something that I've said on the radio, and I'll say it to you now. All Christ asks of us is that we go back to basic training and prepare ourselves for the battles which only the Catholic Church has the spiritual resources to fight. Remember that our general is coming soon, and we want to be ready. Our Lord Jesus said, fear is useless. What is needed is trust. Let not your hearts be troubled. What matters is that we run the race to the finish line, and I might add, we fight the good fight. Many saints will be forged in the crucible of fire in the coming years. Make sure that you're one of them. As the great Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen says, dead bodies float downstream. More than ever, we shall have to be strong in our faith. We shall have to be strong and even stronger in our faith, because in the end, we have the certainty that truth will triumph over lies, light over darkness, and good over evil. So stand firm, Catholics, and rush into the battle lines with Jesus in your heart, and I might add, a rosary in one hand and a Bible in the other hand, because no matter what happens, no matter how this battle turns out, we know we win. In the end, those who remain faithful to Jesus Christ win. We win. God bless you all. Have a wonderful day.